Hi everyone. Thank you for checking me out on my channel where I talk about everything relational trauma and healing in this little corner on the internet where I make it okay to not be okay. And where I say if you can whip it in your mind, you can whip it everywhere else in your life. Today I'm gonna look at 5 type of parenting styles. Mothers, dads, all of us can embody this type of, parenting styles. So the first one, 5 types. The first one is the distant parent, right? So you can have a distant parent who is right in the home, right? Doesn't engage. They're physically there, but I think most of the time men present this way, especially after kids, 30s, 40s, and beyond. They go to the man cave. So they're there physically but emotionally disconnected from maybe their partner, also maybe from, their kids as well. They don't connect emotional level, talk to their kids about, needs, different things, questions, how school, really connect in that level. They might be providers, which, like in my case, my dad was like that, still healing my daddy issues. I've always known that though. So, great dad, not perfect. He has a lot of his own shortfalls from his own childhood. But from where I come from, does anybody do therapy or self-help things? That's a whole different podcast. But so distance in that sense. So the parents is there, but you don't have that connection. It's all about discipline, discipline, discipline. In my journey of situationships, my last long-term situationships, I choose to call it that, my last term long-term situationship, was like that because culturally many of us are shown that, like the dolphin story in one of my recordings, what you're shown, so if you're a dolphin and you're shown that in order to gain attention or get food, get love, you have to perform. So that's what you do. But when you're in your natural habitat, like the dolphin doesn't have to do all this jumping jacks to be able to get what their needs to be met. They naturally just go after it. That's how God made them, to go after it. But when they're, groomed to think that they have to be performative in order to get their needs met, as a dolphin in an aquarium, it's similar to that. So many women think it's okay to be emotionally distant because growing up, maybe that's what you're shown. Your mom, your dad, your aunties, your grandparents, your leaders, the church, that's how they roll in their, their spaces. So that's what you're exposed to. That's what you think it's okay. But physically they're providing material stuff, but doesn't meet that emotional need. So that generational, trend, I choose to not call it generational trauma. It can be traumatizing depending on resilience too. You're gonna have a distant parent, but still have that core resilience to be able to still do well in life. But it's all about reflecting and knowing and putting verbiage to what it is that you experienced and moving forward to it to also find the best way to now pass on to your children, to your next generation, maybe better, right? Better because of how you experienced it didn't feel good. So that's the distant parent. So totally disconnected, physically there, or might not totally even be there. Might show up once or twice a year. Might say they are showing up but never show up. So very inconsistent in that sense. So they're distant physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. There's people who just didn't have that parent. They were raised by, a foster parent. They were raised by a grandparent. They were raised by an auntie. They were raised by the church community. So it shows up differently, so distant. So knowing that that's what it is and healing from there, because that exists, knowing that you're not alone. Then the needy parent. So I did a video recently about parenting and burnout and the overwhelm that comes with it. So feeling like you need your kids, especially as they grow into young adults and adults when they have their family, when you become needy and dependent and your whole life circles around your kids, then you become a needy parent. You see the picture I'm creating. So you're constantly, if it's especially a son, if it's an only son, check out my video on, before you marry that, it was an African man or Asian man, but it just also speaks to all kinds of cultures, um, that, some of our in-laws, parents become needy on the son, even they're married, they're pulling them back. Oh, calling them up, I need you to go fix this in my house, because they still think their son has to be like their little husbands, because they never have the ability to go out there and look for their own partners. If their partners were gone or deceased or whatever it looked like, they just didn't build purpose for their life. So their life still centers a whole lot around their children and maybe their sons, so to speak, especially if they're only son in the family, right? So they become the little man. And so be careful saying to your son that they're the little man in the house. Yeah. So now you're the little man. You're the man of the house now. That's too much burden to put on a son. So too much as a parent. So you're needy as a needy parent. And then a competitive parent. The parent, especially moms, can have that. They compete a lot with their daughters. So being careful with that, especially in a dynamic where there's a little toxicity from the other partner. If it's a heterosexual relationship, for example, I'm speaking to that. That's probably what I'm familiar with, or that's what I've lived through my, lived experience. I'm speaking from that lens. So for that parent, mom who might be competitive with their daughter, so to speak, I don't know much research on a father competing in the space, whatever space it would look like with sons. Could be similar. But I've seen that with women really competing for attention from husband, so to speak, from a daughter, especially if that husband or parent is not careful or aware enough to meet the needs, reciprocate the need for the wife or the female partner, and they're shedding more of their attention on the daughter, where your partnership with your wife or with your woman should be first, pouring into that effort before you pour into the daughter. So if you're showing your daughter a whole lot of attention, I've seen this, you're giving your daughter flowers, you're calling your daughter honey, you're calling your daughter babe, and you don't even call your long-term girlfriend, your fiance, or your wife those terms of endearment, or show them that type of level of attention, communicating, loving, hugging, and you're doing that, it can start to create competition between a mother and the daughter. And if that mother has abandonment issues and they haven't healed their own childhood issues, it can start to create resentment truly between mom and mother and child, especially if it's a tween, teenager, young adult, and they also have a strong personality, or they have entitlement. That type of personality can really cause a lot of havoc between mother, and daughter. So being careful to not be competitive with your child or daughter. That once again goes back to building your own happiness, your inner self, and working on yourself and finding purpose for yourself outside of your relationship, long term or marriage or whatever. Finding joy, purpose, and internal rest for yourself as a parent. So the competitive parent looks like that, where it's constant batting heads with that person. A parent who wants to be best friends with their child